If you are looking for tips to improve your writing, you will find them here. But you also first already messed up, Rachel. We have a live audience in the studio today. Thank you. If you are looking for tips to improve your writing, you will find them here. But you will Wait, I think I'm too... This could be a long video. If you are looking for tips to improve your writing, you will find them here. But you will also discover that doing whatever the hell you like might work just as well. Gertrude Stein, the famous American novelist, poet and playwright, said, "Punctuation is necessary only for the feeble-minded." Before we venture into the spiraling madness of writers who go against the rules, I just discovered that the word playwright is spelled P-L-A-Y-W-R-I-G-H-T, and I assumed it was spelled P-L-A-Y-W-R-I-T-E. Like someone who writes plays, a playwright. And that might be because I'm a fool, or it might just be because the English language is endlessly surprising. Etymologically speaking, playwright is similar to the word wheelwright, which was someone who wrought wheels out of wood and iron. And so a playwright is someone who has wrought words into a dramatic form, like the words have been hammered and bent into submission. I like that. But this video isn't about playwrights. This is about rules, goddammit. So let's get to it. There are hundreds of books about the rules of writing correctly. As authors, we walk a tightrope of good grammar. At any moment, we could fall into a pit of dangling participles, passive sentences, repetition, the much-feared adverb that reveals the writer's inability to show instead of tell. Repetition, a misplaced comma, and God forbid, a rogue semicolon. And worst of all, repetition. But how important are these rules? And how much are they actually going to hinder your success? Rule 1. Only ever use he said or she said, and never follow it up with an adverb. You don't even need to use he asked or she replied. It's just like, all it needs to do is be a tag for the reader to know who has spoken. As when you're reading, the he said, she said become invisible to you. You just scan over them. It's all about clarity. I mean, you don't have to only say he said, she said. You can say, said Graham or Susan said. But obviously only if there are characters in your book called Graham or Susan. Otherwise you should probably use the names of the characters that are in your book. The key is clarity. The reader wants to know nothing more than who has spoken. All of the dramatic work should be done in the dialogue or in the surrounding prose. If you're having to add the word angrily after he said, then you have messed up. For example, you might have a character at the breakfast table, and his wife has prepared breakfast for him. And we get the following piece of dialogue. "I wanted my eggs runny, not raw," said Graham angrily. Instead of using the word angrily, you should say something like, "I wanted my eggs runny, not raw," said Graham, picking up his plate and throwing it at Susan. You see, now we have a vivid image that keeps the scene moving, the image constantly going. We haven't stopped with an easy word like angrily, which is trying to do the work and failing. Unless, of course, you are one of the best-selling authors of all time. Stephen King said about J.K. Rowling, "Miss Rowling seems to have never met an adverb she didn't like." And it's true. Her prose is littered with them. I have her book here. I'm going to open it at random, and let's see if we can't find an adverb. Ah, straight away. "I've never asked," said nearly headless Nick, delicately. That one's okay. Let's find another one. "It's not poison," said Harry, anxiously. And... oh, I need to get my script back. It's true, her prose is littered with them. I'm a sucker for this rule, and I try to avoid adverbs as much as possible. I never use them after he said, she said. But maybe I shouldn't be afraid of throwing a few in every now and then. It hasn't exactly hindered the success of Harry Potter. Exclamation marks! Avoid them. If you have more than 3 exclamation marks in your whole novel, then you have too many. This is lazy. An exclamation mark is doing work that should be self-evident, by the words that are being spoken or the events that are unfolding. If you have to add a nudge at the end of a sentence to say, "This bit's really surprising," and you're doing something wrong. Your words should speak for themselves, without a fanfare at the end to highlight how loud somebody is shouting or how big the explosion is. And just on an aesthetic level, it makes the page cluttered and it looks clumsy and amateurish. Having said that, in Joe Hill's hugely successful Nosferatu, there is an exclamation mark after every single sentence spoken by Charlie Manx, the bad guy in the book. Back in a minute. I'm back! This is my copy of Nosferatu. My signed copy of Nosferatu. So I'm not hating on the book. I love Joe Hill. Who doesn't love Joe Hill? He's amazing. I'm going to try and find a quick example of Mr. Manx speaking. And this is going to be difficult because it's a humongous book. Okay, I found one sentence spoken by him. So there is a place, where are we? I can't see it when I'm holding it upside down. So see, after no and pirates here and there. It's literally after every sentence, not for any kind of exaggerated way that he's speaking, just because it's in there after every sentence. You will also find excessive uses of the exclamation mark in the books of Tom Wolfe, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Jane Austen, and of course, the biggest offender of all, James Joyce. We will talk about it again later. Now, some people think of those authors as being some of the best literary writers in history. So maybe using more than 3 exclamation marks in your book is okay. In fact, over the course of 3 books, I think James Joyce used well over 1,000 of them. So, here's a curious one. When writing dialogue, should you use the double speech marks or the single ones? Now, luckily, that one has a straightforward answer. The publishing standard in the UK is 1, the publishing standard in the UK is 2. Unless, of course, you're the best-selling author Roddy Doyle, who doesn't use any and just uses a dash before anybody speaks. Or Cormac McCarthy, author of No Country for Old Men and The Road. He didn't believe in speech marks either. He said, "I believe in periods, capitals, the occasional comma, and that's it." And on the subject of punctuation, James Joyce, who I said I was going to get back to, and I am now, just a few moments later, in the last 2,400 words of Ulysses, there are only 2 full stops and 1 comma. So, what's the point of all this? Well, it's simply that there is no right or wrong way to write a book. You can do what you like. You know, there are millions of books, hundreds of thousands of books published every year, and now with indie publishing, there's just so many books. You don't have to write just a standard thriller that follows the story beats set out by Save the Cat or, Into the Woods or whatever book on story that you've read. And I recommend those books highly. I'm just saying, you don't have to write like that. You can do whatever you want. If you want to write humongous books that have paragraphs with no breaks for pages on end, that have sentences that run on for 600 words, then you can do that if you want to. You can do whatever you like. And every time there's a huge bestseller that comes out of nowhere, it's always criticised for its poor literary merit, like 50 Shades of Grey or Dan Brown, who everybody in the literary world unanimously agrees is a terrible writer. He writes like an estate agent. You know what? I enjoyed his books. And so did millions of others, even though they lie about having read them. It's good to know and understand these rules, but it doesn't mean you can't just do whatever you want to do. It doesn't have to be polished so smoothly. It's a bit like You know, pop songs by boy bands, they're so well produced and so polished and so clean, you bounce right off of them. There's no way in. But that's why I like old Bob Dylan records, because, you know, like, if he's singing and he screws up a word, he'll just say the word again without re-recording it. It's there in the song. He'll screw up a song 20 seconds in and just start again, and there it is. It's on the album. And that's how you get in. It's okay to be a bit rough around the edges with your writing. There is no right way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. Learn the rules and then do with them as you wish. As long as you are entertaining yourself, that's what's most important. Unless your goal is to get yourself on the thriller charts on Amazon and get your orange bestseller flag, then, you know, sure, then appeal to the widest possible audience. That is, you know, that's a good thing too. I love reading, you know, thrillers and stuff from the charts. I also love reading Kurt Vonnegut and Charles Bukowski and David Foster Wallace and all the crazy stuff that's out there. Just don't be boring. Be entertaining. That's all from me. To get notifications for when new videos are coming out by me, click on subscribe and ring that notification bell. And then you'll get a little message pop up in the YouTube that says, Andy has a new video for you. And you'll go, has it really been a week? I'm not ready for this. But you can watch it. You can watch it later. New videos come out every Wednesday, hopefully. If I keep doing it, then it will. And I will. I think I will. I will. I 100% will. If you're an author and you have a mailing list, feel free to pop a little link to my video in there at the bottom. It's just going to take up this much space at the bottom of your newsletter. And if you do decide to do that, let me know and I'll plug your book in a future video. Yes. Okay.